Alright, comment video. It's not a live room. Yeah, just because I don't think it helps that much doing the live room. It's a quality thing, gotta work on it, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. So, anyway, so, you know, might as well just stay on the subject besides the point, you know. Like I say, wait for the live rooms till there's some sort of real interaction of some kind. Anyway, so Bob Thefty, the fly. Plus and minus are anonyms, but you could use any anonyms, and in some languages they are use male and female or sun and moon, and it works just as well to describe the effect. Well, I don't think it does, because some things are very different, like male, female. You could say penis and vagina specifically, very different. You know, input, output, all that kind of stuff. Mouth, anus, very different. And then other things are just degrees of something, like blindness, you know, lack of vision. It's just a degree of how much you can see. You know, light and dark, black and white, even. You know, just a lack of whiteness. You know, so you know, some things are some sort of linear thing. You're just describing a lot of something and a little of something, and sometimes you're describing things that are functionally opposite. One produces gasoline, the other thing consumes the gasoline, that kind of thing. My argument is the proton and the electron are quite opposite, where electricity is a progression, a degree of pressure that makes an atom either electron heavy or proton heavy. So it flips an atom into these two states depending on how much pressure the atom is under. So that's why electricity, plus and minus, yes, that's sort of a linear thing, but it's only a linear thing because of the fundamental property, which is the electricity causes the magnetic effect or the charge effect, which is quite opposite in the terms of how protons and electrons interact or react to a force. They act oppositely, not a degree of something, but oppositely. Alright, in fact, we use male and female to describe connectors in electronics. Yeah, and again, so those are kind of opposite, out and in, and other things aren't. So I'm just saying, you're not, doesn't clarify the point being made. He's claiming that this idea of charge is arbitrary. And charge being confused with electricity, the point is that electricity is where you're designating a polarity, an oppositeness. But that's not really where the oppositeness is. It is in the charge itself. And so he's denying the thing that's even more fundamental. Dissident science seems like a good guy. Well, I made the point why I don't think he's a good guy. He's basically the point guy for a bunch of creation science. I mean, apparently that's all this organization, this natural philosophy thing, all it is a cover for a bunch of creation science. I would like to know the numbers of how many members are Christians, because it seems like all the ones that are participating are, you know, have this debunking for the purpose of replacing rational theories with, you know, Noah's Ark. Anyway, seems like a good guy. Not sure why he is getting pummeled. I don't think I pummeled. I did exactly what he does. This is why you people are such fucking hypocrites. So he can badmouth deGrasse Tyson. He can badmouth Einstein. He can badmouth the whole community of physicists and call them all kinds of dupes and simpletons and all kinds of crap. All right, but if somebody puts the same standard to him and says, well, your theory is even less evidence than their theory. Okay, so you're sitting here telling me I should be compelled to replace something. So I should replace the flat tire with a flatter tire? Come on. He doesn't do any of the work. I mean, he just makes these declarations. Okay, there's this huge volume of evidence supporting the fact that the Earth has changed size. When, no, there's not a huge volume. There's a little bit of evidence, just the hairs, the same little bit of evidence that conventional physics use to justify their stupid wave-particle duality or some other bullshit. A little tiny shred of evidence. And the bulk of the evidence makes it seem incomprehensible how this could possibly be true. Oh, the oil just magically gets created by the Earth, and the water was created by the Earth. It's all magical. And there'll be no explanation of how this expansion took place without stretch marks, so to speak, all over the frickin' place. How did rock features and different things that exist for millions of years on the surface of the Earth, how come they haven't been obviously moved apart, stretched? I mean, there's, you know, it's so superficial. The claim is extraordinary, and he has superficial, evidentially, statements. Dinosaurs were too big. He just says it, like somehow he's done the science to prove somehow that they were too big. When clearly you can look at them and you can say, gee, they're kind of built stocky, aren't they? You know, they're not built tall and interesting. They're built like frickin' rocks. All right, anyway. Seems like a good guy. Not sure why he's getting pummeled in this response video. Well, part of it is because he makes claims that are just ludicrous. There's no such thing as charge. Charge isn't a significant fact that you have to account for if you have a theory. If you have a replacement theory for conventional physics, he's pretending you don't have to account for charge. And his evidence of why, oh, it's okay, there's no problem, is this nonsense that there's, oh, because you can put beaters in water and the beaters will tend to slightly move towards each other or slightly move away from each other. There, I've proved attraction and repulsion. I've demonstrated how that's how a magnet works. When every piece of evidence indicates that magnets don't deflect off each other crooked, that it's a straight line force, that everything that they do is based on a perfect linear straight line mechanism. No swirly stuff. No evidence of any movement around a magnet whatsoever. No evidence ever compiled demonstrating that anything moves around a magnet. All right. Then he types incomprehensible symbol comes to mind. Yeah, well, fuck you. Whatever that is. You know, just fuck off. I mean, you're such a hypocrite. Like I said, he made a movie called Einstein Wrong. He picks on a dead guy, and to prove Einstein wrong, what did he actually show Einstein's papers or read them and say, well, this part's, you know, wrong, or this part's wrong, or Einstein was crazy to think this, or he was crazy to think that? No, he had, you know, he makes a kind of a cartoon film, and then has a bunch of tinfoil hatters just make claims without any evidence. All right, so this is Lisa Horseman. She's one of his girls. You know, Jesus. Okay, your video was recommended to me, I guess because I do sub to Dissident Science. No, that isn't exactly why. See, but it's part of the reason, right? So you watch his videos, and a certain percentage of Dissident Science guys watch my videos, so that we have an audience in common. And so YouTube is going to just recognize that we have an audience in common, and it decides, well, if 20% of our audience is the same people, then they're just assuming that there's a reason why these people like the same videos or watch the same videos, and so they're just suggesting to the other people, well, why don't you become part of the 20%, and then you can be part of the 25%, and then it'll be the 30%. You know, but yes, no big conspiracies. I don't understand why people have become so cultish in everything we do. Well, you really would have had a hard time during the Civil War, or the Revolutionary War, or any one of the other wars, because guess what? That's what humans have been doing forever. Christian, Muslim, have you ever heard of that? Christian, have you ever heard of that? Protestant, Catholic, you know, you haven't heard about all that crap? Yeah, humans are cultish. Yeah. Been around a long time, that virus. Like, you know, and I would argue for pretty good reason, frankly. I mean, fighting slavery and fighting Nazis. Probably a pretty good idea. Like, it's not permissible to think outside the box. Well, again, that's not what the subject is. I pointed out what he's not doing outside the box. What do you mean by outside the box, by the way? You mean the evidence box, right? I mean, you know, so that's exactly what conventional physics is doing. My point is he's committing exactly their crime. He's saying, let's do physics on the cheap and sloppy. And, yeah, we'll just jump to bizarre conclusions on tiny bits of evidence. We'll just jump the evidence wherever possible. And we'll try to jump to some theory that has Noah's Ark in it. Because that would make my followers happy. That would make the club happy. Amazing. Or to have different scientific models or something. Well, again, if you think that having different models is succeeding, then you're really not understanding the job here at all. Okay? Because having different models is failing. Dismally failing. And that's why we have cults, is because you have different models. If you think people with different models are all going to sing Kumbaya somewhere, you are so frickin' delusional. Oh, man. Videos like this make me think that maybe Dissident Science is onto something. Brilliant. Okay, so you make a video and you explain that, yeah, he's a front man for a bunch of creation science. Okay, which has a horrible reputation as being full of shit. His favorite, one of the creationist kooks, constantly, through every single statement he makes, he keeps making claims about how they're hiding books from him and conspiracies all over the place. He makes claims about what's been proven and what hasn't been proven. Claim after claim after claim. He supports none of them with anything called evidence except his stockbroker told him so. There's a new frickin' technology coming right along. Because he got it from a stock option thing. You know, somebody sent him junk mail, and he believes the junk mail. So you think that's the way you get on to something good? That's a train worth jumping on? The let's jump to silly conclusions way too soon train? I mean, why else would someone spend an hour of their time to debunk? Okay, so Einstein must be right, because the dissident science guy spent thousands of dollars and years of his life making the shallowest attempt to debunk Einstein. So Einstein must be right, because why would he waste all that time? Why would he do that insane thing? Make a movie called Einstein Wrong, okay? Basically insulting dead people, and then make a little joke video insulting ALS, one of the worst diseases you could possibly have. What a cunt. You cunt. I mean, why else would someone, okay, so to debunk and ridicule him? I don't think I did ridicule. Okay, I mean, I could have pointed out lots of things I could have ridiculed, okay, if I was just doing it for ridicule purposes. All right, I pointed out what my real concerns are with his rhetoric. I don't like this whole dopey notion that any theory is good enough. Any tinfoil hat is good enough. Let's not have any standards at all. Let's let any Sasquatch bullshit nonsense theory in the club. And that somehow makes the opposition look rational. No, it makes the opposition look like a bunch of lunatics. He's making it difficult for anybody who wishes to fight the man, because he's fighting in such a lousy and rotten manner. All right, I'm not familiar with you at all. Well, then you're pretty clueless, because he's mentioned me a few times. There's a video on his channel where we're actually talking to each other. My dear bitch. I really don't do that, my dear stuff. Okay, like dude, or my nigger, or my dear. Yeah, I don't do any of that crap. So forgive me for being blunt. Oh, really? About this. In what way are you going to be blunt in any kind of rational manner? I mean, you're going to do something rational instead of being a preposterous hypocrite? Once again, he made a movie called Einstein Wrong, ridiculing Einstein, a dead guy, and doing it in a manner where he proved absolutely nothing. You could be a perfectly delightful human being. Well, fucking not even close. But another silly guess. I'm not. Why would anybody be a delightful human being on this scumhole of a planet? You just pointed out how it's full of cults and lunatics and decisiveness and civil wars and all that shit. Why would anybody be a delightful human being stuck on this shithole with a bunch of fucking morons? I'm not an expert on science at all. Right, so what are you even involved in this for? What are you trolling around for? What are you just following around for? You really don't have much of a passion for it, quite obviously. It is a lot of technical stuff. You really do have to collect a volume of information to have a rational opinion. If you're not willing to do any of that work, I mean, if you're not even willing to, like, watch a documentary about evolution, let's say, and see the pictures from the Galapagos Island and sort of get the idea of what's going on, then why bother having an opinion? All right, science at all, but I will say this. Because of people like dissident science, I have looked into how scientists from days gone by were practically blackballed for bringing a different theory to light. For example, except fighting religion, you know, except for Galileo getting imprisoned for bad-mouthing God's creation, where is the example of this? That in and of itself makes me think that perhaps they might be onto something. When you keep saying this, you think you have some way of knowing what's onto something based on how many people are complaining or how many people aren't complaining. So again, Einstein must be perfectly right, because David spent 7 years of his life and a big pile of money making a movie trying to prove he was wrong, and doing a shabby job of it as any kind of as a scientific or as a documentary film. It was garbage. I personally think in a different manner than dissonant science does. Oh, what does that mean? You think with the left side of your ass instead of the right side? But what I like about him is he allows people to have different theories. And for what, again, for what purpose? Let's not have any standards. Oh, that's just brilliant. So why don't you let somebody who doesn't know how to drive your bus? Is that what you would do? You let somebody who doesn't know how to drive the bus. Let people who don't know how to fly planes fly planes. Don't have any there's no standards required here. This is all just make it up. Anybody can make up any kind of horse shit. Oh, it's a soliton. Oh, I think you know, there's a first wave, and the wave created the ether, and then there was waves in the ether. Blah 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 blah. Just make up crap. What the fuck good is that? You know, that's no better than the thing he's pointing his finger at and says is undeveloped and undercooked. He says the food they're serving us is undercooked, and he's serving up raw fucking whatever, salmonella covered eggs. Does, but I like about him is he allows people to have different theories. I mean, it's just amazing. I allow people to have different theories if they can prove them or make a rational argument in defense of them, or if they're willing to answer the questions that come up because of their theory. David's just run from those. And to think in a different manner than the herd. So again, he basically said the next theory is not going to be created by smart people and intellectuals. No, it's going to be made by idiocracy. Oh, just eat it up. Critical thinking comes to mind. I mean, amazing statement. This is what critical thinking is. This grotesque hypocrisy, right? You know, so you haven't even done the step one of rational thinking, which is it's really idiotic to claim I'm not doing exactly what dissident science is doing. That is, finding a flaw in what is presented by somebody and claiming that's not good enough. Quit saying you have an answer when you don't. I mean, your duplicity is amazing. Okay, I'm done. Thanks for your time and energy. Amazing. I mean, just amazing. People are just so frickin' retarded. This is such a hopeless task. So here we have a new comment. No kids. No doubt, you know, somebody else has to keep making sock accounts. All right. NIST article titled NIST Atomic Clock Now Keeping Time Well Enough to Improve Models of Earth. Who cares? Says experimental atomic clock at the National Institute of Standards and Technology have achieved 3 new performance records, now ticking precisely enough to not only improve timekeeping and navigation, but also detect faint signals from gravity. Oh, bullshit. The early universe and perhaps even dark matter. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? Crap. I mean, no doubt, meaningless. None of that will happen. I mean, making a good clock. I'm not opposed to a good clock, but good clocks don't detect anything. All right. Chris something or other. It's an interesting concept. I hope this is still centered mostly. Yeah, mostly. All right. It's an interesting concept for a second, but anyone involved in LIGO should be stripped of all credibility. The math doesn't even work. Well, the more you know about how complex this whole thing is, and the fact they never tested it. I mean, wouldn't the first thing you do after you made this thing, wouldn't you do something like, well, let's swing something heavy, you know, above the mirror. You know, the mirror's above ground, and so they could put something, you know, some heavy lead ball, like a crane with one of the big heavy balls on it. Heavy balls. And swing it, and see if your detector can pick up the motion of the gravity from the big heavy ball, right? Because technically, the amount of gravity that lead ball would be creating at 10 feet, let's say, maybe less, but at 10 feet, would be more than the amount of gravity signal they're receiving from this stupid black hole 5 billion light years away. So, you know, that kind of thing. When you do just physical tests to demonstrate how freaking sensitive and accurate your instrument is at actual gravity, at actually detecting gravity. Yeah. Wouldn't that be what you would do? Yeah, that's what you would do. Be stripped of all credibility. The math doesn't even work. Because it really is just about moving the mirror. You know, it's all it really is about. The mirror moving. It's not about the whole tunnel moving or any of that. It's just the mirror moving. But the whole thing doesn't make any sense anyway, because yes, the whole tunnel does move. The whole thing is moving. The whole thing is in heat. The whole thing just doesn't make much sense. And yet people just suck it up. They accept it. They said we did it, and therefore they did it, even though it's, again, thin evidence, because it's so layered and so much complexity. I mean, the complexity is so huge. And the assumptions made about what you can filter and how well you're filtering, all the assumptions made are just so preposterously beyond our capacity, okay, to do the assuming in any kind of rational way. Like we can know what, like I said, how do I know what happens every 500 years? You know, how does our science even know what kind of sounds are made every 500 years, or every 1,000 years, or every 10,000 years? We can't know any of that. So how can we filter for them? It's just so bad. All right, based on this video, I checked out Lewin's channel. What a creepy fruitcake. Well, everybody's a creepy fruitcake. I mean, you want to point to me somebody who's not a creepy fruitcake? Just out of curiosity. Who would you put in the not a creepy fruitcake category exactly? I mean, who are you? I mean, it'd be interesting to see who you are, so I can make a comparison to somebody who points at something and goes creepy fruitcake, just so I can make sure, oh, you're something not creepy and fruitcakey. Oh, okay. And then this Joe Chang guy, who's really not going to last long because he just makes declarations, you know, pointless declarations without evidence. Between two parallel conducting wires at a distance r, free electrons are repelling this. I don't know what this has to do with the other guy's comment. With their electrostatic force, F equals Ke times EE times RR. I guess those are R squared and E squared. That force conducts EMF between the two conductors. Again, you say so. Okay, there's no electromagnetic force between the two conductors. There's magnetism between the two conductors. If electrons move in one conductor, it will induce an opposite direction EMF in the other conductor. Well, the fact is it's creating the same function. So if the magnet's pushing the electrons, then it's going to end up creating the same pole. It's going to get back from a paramagnetic material, it's going to get back what it gives. So if you push on a piece of copper, you're going to get back the same magnetism you pushed with, and therefore it's going to become repulsive. The strength of the induced EMF is inversely proportional to the distance squared. Yeah, and the funny part is, though, if you run currents through two of these wires going in the same direction, you'll end up with repulsion, attraction. And where you logically say you shouldn't. But that's because you have to understand that the parts that's polarized is the surface of the conductor itself. So, it's complicated. Trust me. I don't think you have a clue why any of this happens. A magnet carries circular electron force field, says you. It just says nothing. The magnet carries circular electronic force field. Says you. One pole has clockwise electric force, the pole has counterclockwise electric force. Well, in two conductors, that's not the truth. They're both going clockwise, but when they're next to each other, this one's going this way, and this one ends up going that way, which means they're going in opposite directions between them. Shit. Magnetic force is a circular force. Current passing a wire does not create a circular magnetic force field. Who says it does? It creates an electronic force. More just words. Electric force. It creates an electric force. Who says you? Which line up with compass magnet carried electric force lines. So again, it's a magnetic force if a compass is aligning up to it. Newsflash. Make the compass move 90 degrees to the wire. Yes, that's a magnetic force. Every magnetic atom, magton, contains two atoms. Well, that's fucking retarded. Two atoms of a ferromagnetic matter before magnetized. So look, this, whatever this crap is, why do I have an obligation to read all this crap? Who the fuck are you? What is all this shit? You're not going to prove it with anything. There is no magnetic flux. When current flows in a wire, induced EMF in the core makes atoms in the core arrange into magneton as 1 plus plus 1 and minus 1 minus 1 direction. Oh, this is just horse shit. Fuck off. It's just horse shit. You got to do better than this. If you can't draw pictures, make a video, link me to some place that demonstrates there's a fucking piece of evidence demonstrating this crap. Forget it. I'm not here to debunk you. It's your obligation to debunk me. Waste of time to listen to this fellow. Well, I'm sure you're a waste of time also. Let's go see what his fantastic channel has on it. It has an icon of an ice cube or something. Picture of the woods from a year ago. It's not even labeled. Gardner KS Thunderstorm 3 views. 3 views are in the title. Hell in a Handbasket Highway. Let's see what that is. Very exciting so far. Now let's jump ahead a little bit. Well, more of the same. 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 Oh, that's just too good. Yeah. Oof. Can't wait till the sequel comes out. Fuck you. Oh, man. Waste of time there, this asshole. Fuck off. Gary, about the electron again. I want to know why the first law would not apply to the electron. It does apply. The point is it's meeting a force. The point is as it's traveling, right? Look, if you understand the theory here, the point is the electron consumes energy, right? In a direction. So the energy goes in, it basically stays in there. And then it can give it up. And the idea is electrons traveling through a field that's constantly bombarding it. So when it has a bias in a direction, that is, it's captured energy in one direction. I'm going to draw it maybe. I'll resort to a drawing. I need to make this there, and that did it. All right. So, so the idea is the electron is not moving, and when it does move, what it's doing is a force hits it, and it basically stays in it. It replaces something inside of itself. So it could give back this. So it has one of these arrows in its pocket. It gives that one back, let's say. And so then it starts to go this way, because inside it has more arrows going this way than this way. So it now moves in a direction. And if it collects more force, it'll move more in a direction. So it's a bias in a direction. But the catch is that the rest of this force from the environment is constantly hitting it from all directions. Now, forward and back isn't going to matter too much, because that's just giving away the same directional arrows, and it's the same amount technically. But the one that's going to matter over time is this sideways force. This is the tricky one, because this is the one that does exchanges with that are passive. And the point is if you were getting hit by a force constantly that is making exchanges, you could get the idea that if you have one arrow going this way, let's say, it is a collection of things. You have 3 coins, let's say, and you know, you have 3 going this way. If those were going to get hit, and when they got hit, they got changed, you could sort of understand that the ones that are more likely to get hit are in this 3 category than in the 1 category. 3 times to 1 time chance that they get hit, and so they get neutralized. And so you can sort of understand that any imbalance is going to be eaten up by the field over time. So that's sort of what I would argue is the real cause of the effect. Now, the fact that there is such an effect, I'd say, is demonstrated by the fact that there are no experiments with electrons traveling any great distance, that they haven't been used in space in any way. We didn't take the space shuttle and shoot a bunch of electrons and try to shoot them all the way around the Earth and have them come back, because that's what they should do technically, right? You're orbiting, you should be able to technically shoot them and actually have them, you know, at just the right speed. Well, I have to think about that for a second. I mean, obviously you can't shoot them if you're already moving that speed, so you'd have to shoot them behind you at the right speed, and yeah, and then have them, you know, hit them in the front, something like that. Well, anyway, they have to be the right speed, the same speed as the space shuttle actually, to stay in orbit. But the point is, you could do them a little faster, a little slower, and you could see you'd catch them in a different location. I'm just saying there's a ton of experiments you could do with electrons if we could get electrons to travel anywhere. But they don't travel anywhere, even in a vacuum. They don't do very well. As soon as you cut off the voltage, the electrons stop. I'm just saying, like, theoretically in an accelerator, you could leave the magnets, you could accelerate the electrons, and then turn off the voltage, theoretically, leave the magnets on, and the electrons should stay in there just going around and around. But that don't happen, as far as I know. Can you show me the experiment? Well, again, if they don't do the experiment, I can't show you the experiment. Now, if I was in charge of the budget, I wouldn't have wasted $1 billion on LIGO. I would have spent $1 billion doing this basic physics research. Okay, who published it? So again, where did I state it was published? Where did I state any of that? I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying, well, where's the evidence of electrons moving any kind of distance? And do you really think that if they could move them any kind of distance, we wouldn't be using them for something? They'd be terribly effective for a lot of things. I mean, like sandblasting or something. You know, they have a lot of uses if you could shoot electrons in any kind of reliable way. You know, without voltage to move them. It's a serious question, very important to my opinion. Well, I'm not holding back any information. I state in the videos, I don't have there's no research you can do. If you go try to look up electrons moving in free space, you can try lots of different phrases, and all you're going to get is how fast do electrons move through conductors and other crap like that. You're not going to get any information about how far they go if I shoot some, you know, how far, even in a vacuum tube, can I shoot them? After I turn the juice off, how far do they travel? Are there consequences? See, I mean, I don't think even, you know, CA2T tubes, I don't even know if they would even work if electrons kept moving after you turn the voltage off. You know, I think the whole thing would fail if electrons were always, you know, still you know, doing their thing. Because they use a high frequency, high voltage to move them in the first place. Very important to my opinion. Are there any consequences? Anyway, P.S. Sorry for writing negative instead of negative. Well, that was sort of irrelevant. I'm working in Indonesia this week. Well, it's a dangerous place to work. Alright, how do you explain this to somebody that is retarded? Okay, we already did that. Literally, the very next thing he does is put words into my mouth. So this is Valerie. I read your comments. Now, the fact that you can't make your point in some way where I can understand it, you know, is that all mine bad, or is that maybe your bad? Maybe you could say in your comments, you could say something like, I agree, and then do your comment. Or I disagree, and then do your comment. Then I'll know what you're fucking saying. Because frankly, I didn't see any agreement in your comment. Put words into my mouth, replying to something I never said. Well, I read the damn comment, so whatever. What I said literally implies the exact same thing he said afterwards. Well, I didn't see that implication. I'm just saying, so you feel shortchanged somehow. You're in, you know, I'm in a room, and you're saying somehow I cheated because I misread your comment or something else happened, and you're saying, what, I did on purpose? No, that didn't fucking happen. From how I read it as a certain statement you were making. You think there was something insincere about the fact that that's what I interpreted it as saying? And then you imply here that you were relying on implying something. Well, don't you think implying something is a little dangerous then? Why don't you just say something overtly instead of implying it? Valerie, I saw you object in the live chat during that video. Well, I didn't see her objection. I wouldn't worry about it. Gary even insults Piro sometimes. Well, Piro's an asshole. Bob, Thefty, okay, thank you for acknowledging it. Yeah, I don't know what, so I'm supposed to go back and try to read the chat on the video to find out what you're bitching about? I mean, couldn't you just have put the point here and said, I was trying to make the point that there is no faster than light communication, or whatever the fucking point was. Shit. Alright, you made a good video about Lesage gravity. When I saw that the first time, I was shocked that no one had ever pointed that out to me in college. Yeah, well, it's amazing how undeveloped the conversation is. And, you know, Feynman is credited with debunking it with a trivial, you know, 30-second pile of crap where he just says, well, you know, if you're running in the rain, more rain hits you in the face than hits you from behind. And this is coming from people who, they don't even understand why electrons move. They think they're spinning around the atom at preposterous speeds, right? Where did the electrons get all that energy from? And how is their speed moderated? How do they actually acquire speed so consistent that it just happens to be the right speed for that energy level? They don't have explanations for any of this stuff. Where did they get their momentum from? We know that the planets are in different locations based on the fact that that's where they got pummeled and their speed ended up being, you know, arbitrary, so to speak. I mean, there is a certain precision to the distance between them, but that has to do with annihilating each other's rubbish. So there's a certain specific distance, but the distance just has to do with how much scatter you're going to get hit with. So nothing can get closer without the two planets eventually hitting each other, because a comet shoots through and changes the gravity and fucks the whole thing up. Alright, gravity is the wrong word. Oh, look, it's already a word. That's what it's called. Calling it some other stupid word isn't going to be very helpful in making people understand what it's made of. If they can't get past the word, semantics, they're not going to be able to understand the theory. The theory is a little more complicated than the semantical problem of understanding. Oh, gravity could be a plus or a minus force. Oh, gravity could be what you call the absence of gravity. Oh, yes, that makes sense. If they can't figure that part out, they have no hope of figuring out why the gravity is created that way. I think a word that is more push-oriented for the Lesage concept should be used in lieu of gravity. Well, I don't think it should. Gravity as a concept feels very pushy to me already, so I don't really have a problem with it. I don't feel like I'm being pulled into the earth. I feel like I'm being pushed into it pretty clearly. Language is more biased the more I look at it. Yes, there is biases. But I think that's the least of the trouble here, is that semantical problem. Lindy does a little more than just saying maybe. I don't know what he's talking about. He says you can derive Einstein's equations from equations related to entropy. Oh, he's talking about this idiot. Oh, look, I watched 8 minutes and he couldn't make a point in 8 minutes. So, yeah, he has an hour-and-a-half video I could watch, but frankly, I don't see where he's going anywhere. And entropy is just an empty word. Doesn't mean anything. Entropy how? I mean, it doesn't mean anything. That's some weak evidence that they could be linked. I'm just saying could be by just words. No mechanism. Verlindy's theory is also linked to the holographic principle. Right, and you think that's an actual principle. That bullshit could possibly be a rational description of reality. That somehow black holes have a bunch of matter they can waste collecting data regarding the history of the particles that fall into a black hole. So somehow they're using matter that has its own history to write history on. And somehow the matter they're writing the history on somehow doesn't have a history of its own. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It's like me using you as a pen. You know, like just your blood is, you know, I'm just holding, you know, I'm just wiping you out to write my history. And then say, look, I accounted for the universe. And I used this pen up. It's stupid. I mean, it's just so fucking stupid. History is something that happens. You can't have, it doesn't record as it's taking place. So unless you have a record of every single thing that took place, every single connected event, okay, every butterfly wing that had a relevant input, unless you have a collection of all that information, knowing any one particle's history is absolutely useless as information. It doesn't mean anything. It can't be deciphered without the context of knowledge of every single other history. I mean, I don't know why you people are such whores for this crap. The condensed form is a sphere of space in the universe can store as much information as the area of the surface of the sphere. Says you. Completely made up crap. Even less likely than the Jeebus story. I mean, frankly, I can see somebody falling for Santa Claus before they fall for this holographic crap. If you... God, you're such dupes. If you space bits of information with the Planck length between them, this means that the entropy increases through quantum fluctuations. I'll read this paragraph now. I don't know. I should just block you. They should expect the sphere to grow so the extra information can be stored on the increased surface. I mean, it's just such a pile of crap. There's no surface. There's none of this shit. You are just such fucking full of shitters. I just can't believe you eat this crap. That's where the name entropic gravity comes from. So if you think now, you think the whole universe is a hologram, and now you somehow think writing crap on the surface of the black hole makes gravity. I mean, you're just so fucking retarded. I know you would neither accept the holographic principle nor quantum fluctuations. Yeah, you're damn right. And I agree there is far from sufficient evidence for either. There's not even any evidence for either. They're just made up fables. They're fucking goddamn Three Bears story. They're fucking UFO Three Bears. 3 bears from Mars. You have also stated thinking in terms of information is rubbish to you. Yeah, I think it's just rubbish. That's right. There's no place storing information regarding what's happening over billions of years. There's nothing taking a record and saying, okay, it moved this way, it moved that way, it moved that way. Yes, every other thing in the universe is influenced by it, but unless you know the starting position of every single individual, there's no way to ever calculate from one history any other histories. It's meaningless information. It's just nonsense. You have to have the whole fucking videotape or you have nothing. Fuck. And it's not on purpose written as information. The information is in the fact that it happened. It's not even information you can... It's like, look, there's information when 2 cars crash. There's a bunch of information on the ground. But there's no camera to take a picture of it with. There's no way to itemize any of it. None of it can be done. So what the fuck does it mean? There's information in where the pieces are. Of course there's information. You can trace it back with physics and figure out where each little piece flew off the car. So if you have enough time, okay, you could actually reconstruct how every piece banged off of every other piece. Well, and we know we can't even do that because of all the heat and all the other crap that's going to be flying off. The little tiny pieces that we'll never get back. So what is this theory? What is so magical about it? Yes, there's information in the sense you can take it and go backwards if you have enough resources to do that. If you have enough magic princess, whatever, whether fairy godmothers. If you have enough fairy godmothers, you could reconstruct the accident. So what? I mean, it's so fucking stupid. All right. I disagree on that one. I would say information is probably the more fundamental aspect of physics compared to forces. It's just so fucking idiotic. Fucking idiotic. Information is more fundamental. So before the something, there is the information. No, wrong, stupid. A force bit in your theory has a charge and a direction vector in 3D space. Yeah, well, charge is a tricky word. We've got to be a little careful with that. Obviously, the force bits have a property, okay, but it's not the same as the charge of the electron. But clearly, they are either electron force bits or proton force bits. All right, that's several bits of information, and who cares? And would suggest a force bit, while simple, is probably not yet as elementary as one can get. Well, obviously, as one can get is a tricky word. So if the universe always was and is just cycling through, you know, the difference between the matter being compressed and the matter being expanded. Compression, expansion, compression, expansion, then maybe that's all the information there is. There is nothing more elemental. So, but why would I care? Why would I care? And how would the answer at all be useful if I had it? Sure, it makes little sense to speculate too much about how exactly it's made up because we don't have any real data. We have lots of data about how the universe is just a machine. It's just a Rube Goldberg device, and whatever the cause is, it's going to be as dumb as any other cause for any other thing. There's not going to be some brilliant reason why the asteroid crashes into the planet. Fuck. Nevertheless, I would say that the default assumption should be that force bits have some minimal complexity to them. Well, it's obviously they have a minimal complexity in the sense that they can convey momentum to something else. They can be captured, so they're obviously a something of some form. But, I mean, they could be quite elemental. I mean, they could just be as elemental as just saying, you know, round thing of mass 1 moving direction whatever, and that's it. I mean, it can't get much simpler, could it? You know, when speaking about information, fuck you, that assumes we are actually talking about the actual smallest constituents. Well, none of that's in Suskind's dopey theory. So I think it's a coherent way of talking about physics. I think it's complete rubbish. The holographic principle is pretty much the result of elaborate thought experiment. It's pretty much the result of grotesque intellectual wankery. Involving black holes and their event horizons. Yeah, so black holes with you know, that where they don't have to obey any of the laws of physics. That is, they can smash matter bits as close to each other as they want forever and ever and ever. They can put 7 zillion electrons right inside the same space, or some other kind of crap that we know can't happen. We know, you know, if you're at all rational, you might even figure out that there can't be an infinite amount of pressure. You know, that maybe the gravity runs out. This is so fucking stupid. Very speculative. Very made the fuck up. Based on no evidence indicating any necessity for the invention of this fucking goddamn principle. Why do we need this information principle? It doesn't mean anything. The past is the past. The future is the future. They aren't the same thing. They're not dimensions that you can travel to. None of this shit makes any goddamn sense. I don't know why the fuck you're wasting your neurons on such nonsense. Time is consumed. You can't re-eat it. Verlandy's theory itself, on top of that, is certainly not very flushed out. Well, it's not fleshed out at all, or solid. Yeah, it's right. It doesn't have anything. It's a nothing theory. Maybe it's something different. There, is that a theory? Yeah, I think it's something different. The reason why I think it's promising, yeah, fuck you, is that it seems oddly convenient how you can derive Einstein's equations from entropy equations. Well, I don't know why you would find it surprising that force equations would have something to do with force equations. But who knows what real derivatives these are, and what part of Einstein's equations we're even talking about. And what Einstein's equations even are doing. I mean, there's only like, what, 17 people who can even figure out what the fuck these stupid functions are. If you combine two theories that are pretty speculative, we should on average expect contradictions, or at least difficulties in reconciling them. Why? When the theories have been contrived to actually do something specific, why shouldn't there be consistencies? That the whole fucking thing was contrived to create some sort of benign mechanism that gives them this little extra bit of push on Mercury. This little tiny extra little push. You know, that can be made out of the fact that just move the sun's gravity a little tiny bit and you have the push. But here it has been shown you could potentially derive one of them from the other. Whatever. You could potentially do this. You mean they haven't done it? I would say it's weak evidence that a coherent picture could eventually be formed. Well, I think it's just insane that you waste your time thinking this is where the truth is, in this mush. Just to be clear, I don't think it's the correct theory, but from your point of view, I would think it is as a serious contestant. Why would I do that from my point of view? It's the most idiotic thing. It's fucking retarded. You're back to a pull force again. Why the fuck would I be at all interested in this pulley crap? The fucking universe doesn't start from the middle out. It starts from the out in. Fuck. I think entropy is metaphysics, which is just a stupid statement by John Gray. Entropy is a real thing. The fact that, you know, you compress things and that they're like a spring and that the spring might spring back, okay, those kind of principles are perfectly rational, and as you start to heat a system or something, that heat has to go somewhere. Or you could even just think of it in terms of the fucking energy leaving the universe right now and figure out that, oh yeah, that's a problem somehow. So if it isn't reflecting back in, then somehow the universe has to keep making energy or it dies. I mean, what do you call it? How is that metaphysics? Oh yeah, we keep shooting photons nowhere, okay, forever. And somehow we have an endless supply of them to keep doing that with. Alright. It is a really good point that the transverse waves in water... Okay, that one I already did. Yeah, and Joe just did another spiel, you know, where he's off the subject entirely. So, fuck you, Joe. Yeah, I'll leave this one where he's saying do the double slit experiment in a vacuum. Yeah, what an idiot. Why should I do it? I'm not the one making bold claims about what's going on. They're the ones with the bold claims. They should do the damn experiments. Not that I would mind. I mean, if somebody wants to fund it, you know, somebody wants to pay, you know, so I can get a pump and a suitable vacuum jar. I'm willing to do the experiment, but I'm not willing to pay for it. So anyway, I guess we're done. Well, I should check the spam folder. Since I'm here. Oh, Joe's in there again. Due to energy atoms carried. Electrons are constantly vibrating due to the energy atoms carried. So that is just a nothing statement. Nothing. Nothing. Vacuously nothing. Look at that haircut. I mean, she looks like she's straight of those Nazi propaganda posters. I'm telling you, she's hiding something. I guess we'll just say goodbye to that. Yeah, I don't know. Well, just a dumb comment. I mean, obviously she does have, you know, dyed hair, and you know, it's very nice though, the big braid and all that. But you know, if you're a 60-year-old man and you're spending all day making and watching videos on the internet, oh yeah, physics videos. Put in there watching physics videos on the internet. You probably effed up at some point. Oh, so I should be watching the frog on a bench video, or the cute kitty videos, or the crap you watch, wild fish. Like big time. So you're fucked up if you're watching physics videos on the internet. Have you gotten any responses regarding your theory? Yeah, some positive, some negative, but obviously I can't get anywhere yet. You have to have traction to have traction. You have to have popularity to have popularities. It's the way the internet works. How much of a stir has it caused in the physics community? Yeah, nobody can stir the physics community. Have you seen somebody else who can stir them? So why don't you point me to the other people doing the stirring the right way? So show me one person capable of breaking through the barrier. I wonder what a 20-year-old you would think if someone told him that 40 years later he'd be ranting about how he single-handedly did what Einstein failed to do, by the way, what Einstein admitted. Okay, this is what Einstein said 2 years before his death. I've spent 50 years studying photons and then have not improved my understanding one iota. So he conceded after 50 years of work he had no clue what the fuck they were. Fuck you, ignorant cunt. Faraday, Fermi, Dirac. Well, Dirac was a lunatic. And even most physicists know Dirac was a lunatic. Newton, where did I complain about Newton? Newton was a pretty good scientist. He didn't jump to bizarre conclusions. And Feynman all failed to do. Yeah, that's right, they have failed. And they failed why? Because they had no imagination. They just jumped on bandwagons. That's all they did. But the bandwagon had flat tires, and they just kept pretending it's, oh, that's okay, well, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. which was to develop a unification theory, and that theory happened to have no math. Again, why does it have no math? Where did I separate myself from all mathematics? Where did I do any of that? No, that's right. I'm the one who keeps saying mock gravity perfectly duplicates the inverse square law, which is fundamental to Newton's observations. That's one of the key things Newton discovered, was the inverse square law. He invented the concept of the inverse square law. Where have I said I reject that? Where, asshole, liar, fuckhead? Where? No details. Tons of details. I mean, all the way to how electrons function, how they have velocity. Yes, tons and tons of details. Just the bold assertion that red and blue, so again, just, okay, you're done. I mean, so nobody can metaphor anything with color. So every time Professor Lewin uses colored chalk, I should just say, fuck you, bullshit, shenanigans, colored chalk, bullshit. You're such a duplicitous piece of shit. I hope you die soon, really, really horribly. You fucking piece of crap. Alright, I'll get rid of this one too. I won't even bother reading it. Alright. Obviously the cowboy. Ugh, disgusting pigs. No balls. Why don't you grow a set of balls? I do live rooms. Why don't you come into the live room and let me interrogate you on your understanding of fundamental physics, you dumb douche. And what evidence you have for the crap you believe, you idiot, you stupid dupe. I mean, you people have been stupid fucking dupes. You've been fooled by fucking just claims that are made without any evidence. You're so fucking, you're just religious loony kooks. Superficial thinking dupes. Okay, so enough of a fucking video. Oh, you didn't get to read the comments. Sorry. Yeah. Too many things to have to remember. Sorry about that. Alright, so, till the next time. I mean, it would have been better if the drawing was a little more interesting. But, you get what you get. It's free. Mostly. A little crooked, but, you know. It's free, mostly. Till next time and such.